So, class, we've talked about traditional sexual scripts for women, and we've discussed traditional sexual scripts for men. Now we talk about contemporary sexual scripts. And in our conversation about these contemporary sexual scripts, they are not sex, gender specific. These scripts, as you will learn and as you will see as I go through them, are more open. They're more open to both men and to women. They're more egalitarian. They're more equal, in other words, and they give more recognition to women. They give more recognition to women. This is contrary to those sexual scripts that have traditionally been taught to women, as we discussed earlier. Still, however, when we think about contemporary sexual scripts, there are some remnants of those traditional scripts too. So, in our conversations, while these sexual scripts are more egalitarian contemporarily, that doesn't mean they are entirely egalitarian when it comes to sex and gender. It is true, however, that these contemporary sexual scripts are more relationship centered, but again, that doesn't mean or equate to full equality for women. So here we go. Contemporary sexual scripts. Number one, sexual expression is positive. Sexual expression is positive. That's a great thing. That's a good thing. Think about how often in the past sexual expression, even the conversation related to and about sex, even talking about your sexual feelings, it was kept in the dark. It was behind closed doors. It was something that you shouldn't talk about, you shouldn't discuss, you shouldn't kiss and tell. Now, contemporarily, that expression, those beliefs, those ideas, those feelings and attitudes and behavioral patterns, well, we talk about them more freely and in a more positive way, not a negative way. Think, for example, the old adage that boys who masturbate are going to go blind. Well, we don't think that way anymore. We don't talk about masturbation, for example, in that way anymore. It's much more positive, both for men and women. We certainly don't ridicule women as much as we used to when it comes to masturbation. Secondly, sexual activities. They are a mutual exchange of erotic pleasure, certainly more of a mutual exchange of erotic pleasure. Again, not focusing just on men, now focusing on both men and women, no matter who their sexual partner may be. Thirdly, sex involves both partners more equally. Again, more equally doesn't mean both partners are entirely equal when it comes to sexual behavior, but certainly they are more equal than ever before. And I wanted to share this research with you. Research that has concluded that couples who share household chores, well, they engage in more sexual behavior. Couples that share their household chores with one another, that have a more egalitarian household when it comes to fulfilling the roles that they have in their home, sharing those chores, cleaning up, washing dishes, washing clothes, mowing the grass, all of these chores, if they're more egalitarian than the members of the couple, two partners, well, they're having more sex as compared to couples that do not share household responsibilities or share responsibilities around the house very much. Number four, masturbation, oral sex, other sexual activities, they are more legitimate contemporarily. More legitimate, not deviant. This is not to suggest that we don't have any deviant sexual behaviors any longer between two partners. Yes, there are some behaviors that are still considered deviant. Whips and chains, kinky sex, yeah, that's still often talked about and discussed as kinky, but even kinky sex is less deviant than it once was. So, as we progress in time, as I've discussed before, sexual norms change. And so, again, we see where with our contemporary sexual scripts, what once was illegitimate, bad, negative, deviant sexual behavior is more legitimized and is okay and considered positive. Number 5, sexual behavior may be initiated by either partner, not initiated solely and entirely by men. Sexual behavior can be initiated by both partners, and when women initiate sexual behavior, no longer do we rush to judgment and conclude that somehow she is a floozy. She's a slut. We don't conclude that from a macro perspective contemporarily. Number 6, both partners have a right to orgasm, not just one, not just the male has a right to orgasm. Both partners have a right to orgasm. Both partners have a right to experience fully sexual pleasure. Number 7, non-marital sex is okay in a relationship. This has been a part of our contemporary sexual script system for many years now. Even though some traditional socialization, sexual scripts, they're still holding on. There are still people that, hey, you shouldn't really have sex before you get married. While remnants of that norm still exists, largely speaking, in our culture contemporarily, we are okay if individuals engage in sexual behavior in the context of a relationship, of a loving relationship. Still, to this point, not okay with just random hookups with strangers. Less okay, certainly, with that kind of behavior than a love relationship. And then, lastly, as I spoke about in a previous video, LGBT partners, individuals, well, we as a culture and society are more open and more tolerant of these individuals in this collectivity, in this group, and these people that fall into these categories. We're more open and more tolerant, yes, absolutely, than ever before. And so, folks that were once defined as extremely deviant, as sexual deviants, as deviants in the context of their sexual orientation, as sick individuals, as people with a disease, as people that needed to be cured, as people that we needed to somehow change, well, most of us don't think that way any longer from a macro perspective. Certainly remnants of those lines of thinking, those perspectives, those constructed realities exist, but largely not so much anymore as compared to the past. So, when we think about sex and sexual behavior, much of the data historically has been just on heterosexual behavior, heterosexuals. And now we're starting to see data come out about the LGBT communities, and what we're seeing essentially is, like heterosexual behavior, sexual behavior, there's really not much of a difference for individuals who fall into the LGBT community. So these contemporary scripts, again, more equal, more egalitarian, and they give more recognition to women. Not entirely equal, but certainly much more egalitarian than ever before.